So today we're going to go into day 2, and we're going to start with internet infrastructure development, which is going to be moderated for us by Dr. Ephrem Teshale. If you could allow me, I will introduce Dr. Ephrem, and I will leave the floor for him to take over and moderate this first session for day 2. So Dr. Ephrem Teshale, our moderator, is Chief Technology Officer at Zergaw Cloud Service Provider. And Dr. Ephrem is the Chief Technology Officer of Zergaw Cloud Services and the CEO of CIT Consulting. And he's a leading professional in telecommunications, cloud solutions, and ICT consulting. At Zergaw, he has worked for the past many years driving scalable cloud infrastructure for over 600 enterprises in Ethiopia. And as an assistant professor at Addis Ababa University, he teaches advanced telecommunications and leads, where was that light so far? And he drives scalable cloud infrastructure for over 600 enterprises. And as an assistant professor at Addis Ababa University, he teaches advanced telecommunications and leads industry-focused training. And with over 20 publications, he is dedicated to digital transformation and tackling Africa's unique tech challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's my honor to invite Dr. Ephrem Teshale to the podium, and please welcome him with a nice round of applause.
Thank you for the very warm introduction. Today we'll have this session on the internet infrastructure development. I'm very happy and honored to lead this session in the panel discussion for this session. I will introduce my guests shortly. Before I do that, I want to say a few words about the session. So the session highlights the critical role of internet infrastructure in connecting digital transformation in the region. It will explore development of internet exchange points, IXPs in Ethiopia, the importance of data centers supporting IXPs, and the lessons learned from our neighbors in Tanzania XP Association, a panel discussion featuring regional infrastructure experts after a few presentations into we'll delve deeper into strategies, challenges, and opportunities. We will try as much as possible to focus the discussion during the panel session towards actionable points. What can we learn from our neighbors and our expertise from different countries, and we'll try to focus on actionable points, on actionable insights towards different stakeholders, policy makers, experts, and the industry leaders. So the main objective of the session is to discuss progress and impact of IXPs, to emphasize critical role of data centers, enabling IXPs and connectivity in the region in Ethiopia, to learn from Tanzania's IXP experience, to engage with Ethiopia's infrastructure experts, overcoming challenges in fostering collaboration for internet infrastructure. So with this, let me take a few minutes to the presenters. We have 4 presenters with me. The first presenter is Mr. Ghislain Nkeramugaba. I apologize if I mess it up. You will correct me when you are on stage. So he is an XP development expert at the Internet Society. He specializes in developing internet exchange points or IXPs, infrastructure, and fostering pioneering ecosystems. Previously, he consulted for the Internet Society IXP projects and held technical and managerial roles in the ISP the .rw Rwanda country code domain in Rwanda. He's passionate about empowering new generations. He also explores economic models behind the internet. So we'll hear a presentation from him, and we'll also be join us at the panel discussion later. Next presenter or next panelist will be Mr. Freddy Mrema. I'm confident that I have not missed this one. So he is a group director in the enterprise sales and marketing in Wingu, Africa, which is the host of this workshop, this conference. He is a seasoned professional leading enterprise sales and marketing team at Wingu Africa Group, a company delivering innovative and tailor-made cloud and connectivity solutions to enterprises across Africa. Freddy leverages his expertise in technical operations, project management, and business development, create value for customers, partners, and stakeholders in mobile, fixed in the data center services. As a group director, Freddy oversees sales performance, ensuring achievement of sales targets and identifying growth opportunities. He strategizes effective marketing and sales techniques. To boost revenue, analyze market trends, and support business functionalities. Freddy also collaborates closely with public relations team, expands customer reach and enhances potential business partnerships. With proven track record, developing strategic partnerships, facilitating sales, training, and introducing new both sales data centers and ICT products and services. Freddy has successfully met needs of international players and mobile network operators, ISPs, and enterprises. So we are very happy to have you here. So the next presenter is Mr. Barrack Otieno. He is a chairman of Association of Community Networks in Kenya, a management information systems specialist. He is over 20 years of experience. He is a leader in internet infrastructure governance, policy development. As the general manager of Africa, top-level domain organization, he has advanced technical reforms, supported DNSSEC programs, and played a key role in the North Africa domain delegation. He leads Kenya School of Internet Governance and chairs the Association of Community Networks in Kenya. Barrack also serves as CTO of Aherinet, providing Aherinet providing connectivity to over 70,000 community members in Western Kenya. And he has held leadership roles in ICANN and the Internet Society Kenya chapter, advocating for digital inclusion and sustainable internet growth in Africa. Then next panelist that will be joined with is Dr. Carlos. Dr. Carlos Rey-Moreno. He's a co-founder of Zenzeleni Networks. Unfortunately, Dr. Carlos will not be joining us in person here. So he was in the beginning planning to come here, but we had some difficulties in coming in person, but he will be joining us online. Dr. Carlos has over 8 years of experience advancing community network solutions worldwide. He is a co-founder of Zenzeleni Networks. He researched sustainable connectivity models in rural South Africa during his PhD. With Association for Progressive Communications, he co-manages Community Networks Initiative, overseeing opportunities in Latin America, Africa, and Asia Pacific. He also leads policy efforts to create enabling frameworks for local operators, delivering training, authoring reports, and engaging internet governance forums. And finally, we'll be joined by Mr. Damtie, CEO of Cloud 251, Ethiopia's top cloud service provider, driving the country's digital transformation. Under her leadership, Cloud 251 delivers localized, effort efficient, and secure cloud solutions that comply with Ethiopia's data protection laws, with over 8 years of experience in managing IT projects, including the establishment of the Orange Digital Center. Tigest combines technical expertise and strategic vision. She holds a bachelor's degree in computer science from Pilco, and she is a certified project management professional. We are very happy to have you here, and she will be joining us later at the panel discussion. Okay, with this, I will end the introduction of my panelists. So before we go to the panel discussion, our panelists will set the stage with short presentations. So the first presentation will be by Mr. Ghislain, and he will be talking about IXP development, internet exchange point in Ethiopia. So please give a round of warm applause for Mr. Ghislain.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ghislain. Said the Ghislain, but I think both what Ghislain or Ghislain was. Nkeramugaba, I'm from the Internet Society, and I hold the position of IXP program expert, among other things. But I'm also involved in projects related to doing advocacy, conquering internet threats, and also capacity building, but my main focus is about peering and the interconnection. This is where we find the exchange point. I also have a background with regards to DNS and not RW in the past, but that's also some of the things that I've done in the past. So welcome, everyone. My presentation will be about the critical role of infrastructure and connectivity. So I will be talking about connectivity and digital transformation, infrastructure, internet infrastructure, and building technical communities and enabling regulatory environment. So as we are talking about digital transformation, we need to talk about infrastructure. Yeah, thank you very much. So we need to talk about infrastructure, because the infrastructure is the one that enables the connectivity and the digital transformation. What do we mean by digital transformation? Digital transformation is mainly about anything that allows life to happen on the platform. It can be education, it can be public services, it can be payments. Have districts interconnected among themselves. If I am in the south, can I send a packet? Can I send a message to someone who is in the west without passing through Addis? That's the question. Can the south interact with the south? Can the north interact with the north? Can east interact with east without passing through Addis in the center and so on and so forth? Intercity infrastructure. Cross-border infrastructure. Ethiopia, IGAD region is not an island. We are living on a continent that lives in the world. We need our content to be accessible from someone in Japan, from someone in Thailand, and so on and so forth. Cross-border are very important. And internet exchange points, this is very, very critical. We have an internet exchange point within the country so that the digital world or the digital activities within the country can live if the country was isolated. And so that's mainly what is about content sharing. Domain name system, I think Barrack will talk more about that, but DNS is very also critical when we talk about digital transformation. So for some of those transformation to happen, there is a need for key aspects. So some of the key aspects are public and private investments. When I remember in Rwanda a long time ago, that was probably 15 years ago, government made some important infrastructure investments. So those are the kind of investment that the private sector cannot do. But from those public investment, then the private can build on top of that. We need to create an enabling regulatory environment. Is it easy for an operator to come and operate? Is it easy for an operator to lay fiber across countries? We need to raise awareness and promote digital service. We've heard about cashless, paperless. This is also promoting digital transformation. We need to lower barriers, access to devices, tax incentives. Is it easy to import devices in the country? This also can help the digital transformation or hinder it. And we need to talk about continuous capacity building activities, creating critical mass of skilled engineers and resources. So in terms of infrastructure, let me go quickly through some of the internet infrastructure that are key in the IGAT region and also around Africa. In terms of exchange points, it's not something, it's something worldwide known and very important to implement as far as Africa is concerned. The AFIX website shows that there are 57 exchange points in Africa. There are some countries that are still not having exchange points. And we need really to move forward in terms of, for example, the IGAT region. In the IGAT regions, what are the countries that do not have an exchange? And we are, as Internet Society, ready to help those countries to have their own exchange point. PCH has a map that shows the exchange points around the globe. There are around 1,100 plus. Mainly, you can see that they are densely located in Europe, in Asia, Latin America, and the US also. Africa still has some work to be done, but we are getting there. Moving forward, in terms of route name servers, it's very important to understand that route name servers are quite important because when you're doing xyz.et, the name has to be resolved into an IP, and the infrastructure that does that are name servers. As far as name servers are concerned, locally, we don't have any instance in Ethiopia of any route server. It's work that needs to be done. It has a negative impact in terms of DNS name resolution, and subsequently, it impacts the internet usage. So if you have a longer DNS name resolution, then people tend to consume internet less and less. In terms of data center footprint, there are some new developments that have happened in the region, but there are still work to be done. There are some countries still that do not have data centers using the open telecomdata.org website. You can see that there are some countries that still need some data centers. Fortunately, in Ethiopia, there are some data centers in Addis and also on the northern part, I think Wingu has been developed. In terms of inland fiber means the fiber within the countries. That you can look at the website of afterfiber.nsrc. It's a website maintained by NSRC. It's very important to see the different fiber within the inland. Between Ethiopia and Somalia and Djibouti and Eritrea and going west with South Sudan and Sudan, there's still some room, there's still some work to be done in terms of developing local infrastructure so that the region is really meshed, because this is how content or access will be facilitated in and out of the region. So in terms of submarine cables, it's very important to see that there are some less touch points. I think Sudan, Djibouti have some landing stations, but we still need probably more touch points. I think there we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fiber, and the region is really up north in Mediterranean or Asia East. So in terms of, oh, sorry. Is that the only? There's some missing slides. Maybe I can talk about it quickly. So the next point that I'm about to finish, the next point is about building technical communities. So you cannot build infrastructure if you don't have technical communities. So it's very important to have technical communities. And one of the reasons that we have advancement, it is because there are engineers that can do routing, that can do especially routing security and so on and so forth. So it's very important to establish those network operators group, building critical mass of skilled engineers and enforcing. And those engineers are the ones that will enforce best practices so that the environment is secured and trusted so that more investment can come into the region. In terms of creating regulatory environments, there are some very important key aspects. First is to create a competing environment so that the best quality of service can be offered to the end users. It's also very important to lower and minimize the regulatory interventions. Some countries have too much regulatory interventions, and that will hinder the development of the ecosystem. For example, there are some exchange points that do not allow networks to peer unless they are licensed in the country. This is a hindering intervention. And lastly, it is about intermediary liability. Some countries do not protect the intermediaries. So whoever is hosting is liable for the content he has or they have not created. It's very important to segment the responsibilities so that the different players are held accountable for whatever they are doing. As I am concluding, I want to make sure that also we are sharing some important development as far as Internet Society is concerned. We have some funding, mainly 2 important funding that we are offering as an Internet Society. What we call the sustainable peering infrastructure. That funding goes up to $70,000 for a project that can last up to 12 months. And it is really targeting exchange points to develop their operational capabilities, acquire equipment, build capacity for their own resources and for the community. We have a second funding, which is called Sustainable Technical Community Funding. That one goes up to $4,000 and is targeting NOGs, NRENs, CSAT communities, all those technical communities, just to hold their workshops and so on and so forth. And lastly, we are having a very important summit that is really targeting peering players, and it is what we call the AFPIF, Africa Peering and Interconnection Forum. The AFPIF is happening once every year in October, in the 3rd week of October. And this year it will happen in Lagos, Nigeria, and we are all invited. I think those are the quite important information to mention. And lastly, the last day of this event, to Friday on 24th, we will be having the Ethiopia Peering Day. It will happen here, and you are most welcome if you're interested in this topic. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Vishan, for a nice and insightful presentations. And at the end, we have heard that there are some opportunities for funding to apply to these initiatives. So I'm sorry, I would like to reiterate that this is a good opportunity for technical communities here and whoever is listening to get in touch with ISOP and get the funding. So I wish you luck. Next presenter is Mr. Freddy from Wingu, Africa. So I would like to please give a warm welcome to Mr. Freddy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, thank you very much for the opportunity to be on this stage to represent Wingu. Wingu is also a sponsor of this event, and we are proud to be here to share our experience, our knowledge, and the information we have about the industry. My presentation will somehow echo my colleagues from Rwanda in terms of how the infrastructure has developed under the custodian of Wingu, together with other stakeholders in different markets. So that will help different stakeholders to be updated and informed about how the EGAT markets, and specifically Ethiopia, how we have made some progress and how our digital infrastructure is ready to drive the digital economy. Having said that, I will allow you to give me a permission to use the Wingu case as the use case for how the infrastructure need to be developed, how collaboration and partnership will accelerate the digital transformation, and then how the infrastructure that has been prepared and developed accelerates the internet exchange, which eventually is the development of internet and affordability of internet. So my discussion will be focused on the basic features of a data center. Probably some might mix it with the normal IT facility, but also it will talk a bit about the data ecosystem. The data center cannot thrive as a standalone box. It has to be integrated to other systems. So we call it data ecosystem. And then we will touch base in the value of having carrier neutral. What are the carrier neutral data center? And what is the value brought in by carrier neutral data center? And how internet exchange brought by a carrier neutral data center will accelerate and support the development of internet exchange. And then we'll discuss a bit about the challenges and opportunities. Some of the other presenter has already touched base on that, but I'll highlight the challenges and opportunities towards data center infrastructure. So, a bit of background of Wingu. Wingu started from Djibouti from 2012, and we've been in Djibouti market for around 12, 13 years now. We have 2 facilities in Djibouti, and we last year inaugurated the second facility, which is integrated data center, which is a data center integrated with a cable landing station. Yeah, where we started since 2022. We have 2 facilities already, and it's a carrier neutral facility. And then we also have operation in Somaliland, where we have a cable landing station, but also the latest market is Tanzania, which is also bordering with 8 landlocked countries. So it's a very strategic location for the landlocked countries. So what are the specifications and the features that we see in the modern data center? And when I say modern data center, are these data centers at the level of tier 3 data center? These data centers provide reliable power in terms of utility power, and also in terms of generators. This facility provides a generator that's capable of running for many hours with all the generator. They run continuously. We have big facilities in terms of the size of the fuel tanks. I will talk more, and you can also grab a brochure outside there. I don't want to spend much time on these features, but the important thing is a data center of that standard assure you 100% availability, 24/7 monitoring, security, and access at any time. Let's talk more on the data ecosystem, and I will refer some of the markets that we have already developed the data ecosystem. Since this conference is about EGAT, I will talk about 2 facilities that are in EGAT markets. One in Djibouti, and I will finalize on Ethiopia. So in Djibouti, we have mobile network operator called TO7, and there is 2 new ISP. The mobile operator is Djibouti Telecom. We have AfriFiber and TO7. Djibouti Telecom is a mobile network operator that provides mobile and fixed services, but TO7 and AfriFiber distribute metro and other regional fibers. In also Djibouti, as being carrier neutral data center, we have developed a proper ecosystem where these ISPs and mobile network operators all have been extended to our Meet Me room. And our Meet Me room provides access to these players. And since our data center are carrier neutral, we pioneered and established the first internet exchange in Djibouti, now which has developed to become an international level, which is part of AM6. AM6 is one of the top 10 internet exchange globally. So from our data center, peak and international traffic and other digital and which is Ethiotel and Safaricom, but also we have an ISP, which is Websprix. All the 3 have extended their fiber is into our data center in a protected way. So Ethiotel has 3 routes of fiber coming to Wingu data center. Safaricom have 3 routes, and Websprix have 3 routes. So in Ethiopia environment, the Wingu data center is the highly connected facility in Ethiopia. And this allows Ethiopia to be connected in different ways. So if it's to do with connecting within the country, Ethiotel and Safaricom connected within the metros, the same Websprix can do. However, my colleague from Rwanda explained about the terrestrial fiber. So although Ethiopia is a landlocked country, but through terrestrial fiber, Ethiopia now has a different gateway to go out of Ethiopia to go to the world. So we still have the traditional route through Djibouti, but now we have 3 new routes, which is to go through Kenya, and then Sudan, and also Somaliland. And we have seen traffic from Ethiopia being distributed through these 4 routes. So Ethiopia now has no such a big risk in case one gateway is down. If another one gateway is down, definitely traffic will reroute it through other gateways. Again, Wingu, together with few pioneers in Ethiopia, expertly and strategically established the first internet exchange in Ethiopia. Up to 2 years ago, Ethiopia did not have any internet exchange. Most of the traffic in Ethiopia were exchanged outside. So if we are in the same room and we are sending each other any electronic or for Abyssinia, internet, university internet coordination, and some other members who are now joining the Addis. So Addis is now up and running in Wingu data center. And this is the room which we have brought in terms of collaboration. Addis operates on its own, but through collaboration partnership, Wingu has enabled the Addis to be in Wingu data center so that everybody can benefit through this infrastructure. So we encourage every player in Ethiopia to connect to the IX, to join the Addis Internet Exchange, so that we can all benefit and accelerate the development of internet services. Again, you cannot mention that you have a standard tier 3 infrastructure if it's not certified. So all the Wingu infrastructures in our market are tier 3 certified. Tier 3 has 2 stages of certification. You are certified in terms of design and also certified in terms of construction. Normally construction comes after design. So all the Wingu facilities are tier 3 certified by Uptime Institute, but we are not ending there. We know we are going to host some other sensitive services. So we are looking forward also to proceed and get more certification for our facilities in terms of business continuity, information security, and any other payment system that need the infrastructure to be certified. So that is a brief about how so far Wingu have been part of the IGAD society and the infrastructure that we have developed together with different stakeholders. Allow me now to share some few things to do with the carrier neutral and what are the trends globally towards carrier neutral data centers. And this, we say these carrier neutral are the new homes for internet exchange. So from the report that were shared by Salam Informatics, this does different analytics. It shows that most of the data center, remember, origin of these data centers started from telcos, ISPs, government offices, and other IT kind of companies. But the evolution now, all are realizing the value of carrier neutral and how carrier neutral will accelerate their growth. So you can see from the graphs, there is a declining of mobile network or ISP-owned facilities, government-owned facility, and other players that have used to have facilities. But you can see high growth of carrier neutral data center. So about 60% or 65% of the new data center that came into the market for the last 3 years were based on carrier neutral data center. And here you can see the kind of the Pan-Africa data centers. I call Africa Data Center, Pikes, Wingu, all these data centers are driven towards carrier neutral data center. So we encourage the market also and the partners here, embrace the carrier neutral data center, but for internet exchange and other players in the internet development, the carrier neutral data center are the main homes for the internet exchange. Through the internet exchange, hosted at the carrier neutral data center, you will see growth at a very, very high speed because it's provide the ecosystem that will allow the growth and also sustainability of the internet exchange. There's been some concern about costs of internet and other services. But if you are co-located at a carrier neutral data center, definitely there's a lot of benefits that are brought in by having a carrier neutral data center. So members who are on the internet society and also working on the internet exchange, these are the new homes, reliable and sustainable homes for the internet exchange. So what are the benefits that we look from the sort of carrier neutral data centers? I've added some few, but from global to local, carrier neutral data center provides benefits to internet exchange because the main purpose of internet exchange to speed up and improve internet connectivity, user experience, but provide affordable internet and reliable connectivity. So from carrier neutral data center, and I will look in the big picture where you have sort of submarine cables landing into the country. So for example, the case of Djibouti, where you have subsea cable landing in Djibouti, and these are extended and integrated into our data center. In other countries where, for example, Kenya, South Africa, these submarine cables land into carrier neutral data center. And these allow internet exchange to tap into these platforms, these connectivities and access to the international content. But also in terms of a global content distributor, I've seen my colleague from Meta, all these contents providers prefer to go to carrier neutral data center. And the carrier neutral data center hosting these global CDNs, definitely it will be easy accessible by internet exchange. But also in the countries, you have mobile network operators, you have ISP, you have government services, you have local and international clouds that are providing different digital services. So the carrier neutral provide a sustainable, efficient, and suitable environment to support the growth of internet exchange, but also will eventually lower the cost of internet because this is the main challenge in different areas. The internet is still expensive in most of the Africa continents. Again, after having this discussion, I would like to touch base a bit on the opportunities and challenges that are brought in by, we have faced as a data center operator, but also a player who works with different stakeholders in terms of bringing the ecosystem, because you need the infrastructure, you need the connectivities, and you need the users, and also you need the traffic. If you don't have the traffic, you don't have the user, you don't have the content, then we are in trouble. So I've identified some few challenges that I think are important for this society, this gathering to get touch on by. So we are facing a reliable and renewable power to power the current data center and future data center. Energy generation has been a challenge to most of the African countries. So we need to think and collaborate to generate new source of power. but also some of my colleagues have touched base the challenge on regulatory related challenges. Different countries have different approach and different views in terms of regulation. So we need, as experts in this room, experts from different areas to deep down discuss and how we can resolve these challenges that are brought based on the regulatory challenges. But also we have a challenge in terms of skilled laborers to develop and work on this infrastructure. I'm happy there are different funds for different trainings, but we have seen this challenge in different markets. Most of these data centers are built by experts from different continents, but in terms of operating them, running them, it's a challenge. Ethiopia being blessed with the youngest generation in the continent, we need to empower our young engineers, boys and girls, to be able to have the right skills and knowledge, especially on the area of ICT. But also projects like infrastructure, facility, ICT infrastructure incur a very, very expensive import costs. So custom duties are so expensive when we're importing these materials. In all the projects where we've been able to build data center, we've gone through a serious challenge in terms of importation costs and other taxes. The governments have different places mentioned about incentive, but when you go to the real world, to the real life, these are completely a challenging area. So we need to work closer to help each other and work with the governments to make sure that we improve and provide proper taxing and custom duties to facilitate this infrastructure to be developed in our markets. We also have a challenge on internet penetration. Most of the people have mentioned about this. So we need to find synergies on how we can be able to build the society that have access to internet as a working tool. Internet is no longer a luxury, it's a working tool. And we need to embrace collaboration to help the cost of internet and the devices to go to be affordable. The last is the challenge, and yesterday there was a discussion about AI and how Africa can have its own content. So we need to resolve this challenge. Most of the content that we are consuming in Africa markets are outside generated, are out of our continent. As we move forward to AI, Africa needs to have its own content, has to build a lot of contents that will help us to grow. In some of the challenges, if you ask AI to define gender, and the AI will go to search information in American content or in other content, definitely you see more number of genders. While in Africa, we only recognize 2 genders. So if we don't have our own content, we don't have our own story put into the digital platforms, then our young generation will consume contents from different continents, which has a different context. So it's very important to support our youth, our system to develop contents within the market, create more developer, create more solutions which are localized in our market. On the right side is the opportunities that I won't spend much time because I can see my time is almost over, but it's more about collaboration. Public and private sector need to work together in terms of developing new energy sourcing, but also public and private to work together in building infrastructure like a terrestrial fiber through public infrastructure like power towers, railways, but also to prepare a special program for startups, fintechs, innovators, but also encourage internship and program that will incubate our young generation to be able to serve this market. But also the regulator to have healthy working environment, collaborative working environment, innovative working environment. Regulators need to change from being a monitor to a member and a collaborative member, a consultative member towards the industry development. Having said that, I would like to end my presentation with the comment, which I would like all of us on this session to embrace. If you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go on your own. But if you want to go far, then let's go together. We are here, we are partner. So let's work together, let's collaborate, let's share experience and provide the opportunity for Africa and the IGAD markets to grow. Namsekenalo.
Thank you, Mr. Freddy, for the wonderful presentation. And I would also like to echo your last final message. We will need to work together to achieve our goals of connectivity and others as well. So, of course, I haven't mentioned it earlier, all of the presenters will be back later for a panel of discussion. So if you have any questions and if you need some elaboration on the presentations, please take your notes and you will have a chance at the end of the panel discussion to ask the questions directly to the panelists. The next presenter is Mr. Barrack Otieno. So please give a round of applause and welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning. Salam alaikum. I don't know the greeting in Ethiopia, but I know I will learn how to say it before I leave Addis Ababa. So my name is Barrack Otieno. I represent the Association of Community Networks in Kenya, but I'm also a very active and passionate member of the Internet Society Kenyan chapter for the many years from 2009 or thereabout when we started the process of registering it. I will go back to the presentation I did yesterday. Okay, apologies. Challenges of height. I understand this is covering me. Yeah, but I hope you can now view me, you can now see me well. I will go back to the presentation that I did yesterday. I did it in a rush, but I will try and focus on issues that I think are relevant when it comes to internet infrastructure development. Thank you to all those that we had follow-up engagements yesterday. There's a lot to be said about community networks. And as I indicated, ISOC has offered a platform. Their training programs, if you visit the Internet Society website, many free courses that I have the privilege to facilitate. And if we meet there, we can engage. And for us, it's not about engaging. We engage until the community network is built. So I really look forward to meeting as many of you in those fora. What happens is we don't teach, we share knowledge. I've also learned a lot through those particular forums. So I'll start with challenges of community networks, even as I talk about infrastructure. And the number one issue has been understanding what a community network is and what a community network is not. When we look at the evolution of telecommunication, it's heavily been business oriented, for lack of a better word. And yet, insofar as the global south is concerned, we still notice that over 70% of our population is still left out, is still unconnected. Actually, those who follow the research by GSMA, you will notice that still there are as many as 23 to 30% who are only making meaningful use of the internet in our region. Majority of these are young people who cannot even afford these smart devices. Those who can afford smart devices like you and I do not know half the features in those particular devices. Is that true or false? So we are not making meaningful use of those particular devices. So understanding community networks is critical because it presents a unique model for us to be able to bridge the gap. Having said that, community networks is telecommunication infrastructure. We still have to deal with capital expenditure. We still have to deal with operating expenditure if we are to provide a good service. And therefore, we need to assess whether a community, first of all, will benefit from or be able to sustain a community network. Last but not least, just like any other network, it's important to plan the construction of a community network. The first community network that I was involved in building, a HeriNet, in 2019-2020, we started with LTE. Yeah, those that know telecommunication spectrum. We did a pilot and we were working very closely with Safaricom, but somewhere along the way, we were reminded that Safaricom is not a charity. Allow me to use that name. We had to pay money. While we had partners, we realized that we were paying almost $5,000 a month, connecting about 45 schools. And before we knew it, we were having demand letters because we had debts. We went to the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education said, as far as they are concerned, education is for free. And so after investing a lot in deploying infrastructure, we realized that we could not use it. We moved to the unlicensed spectrum, 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 industrial, scientific, and medical band. And within no time, there was a lot of noise in the spectrum. When the 5G transition was taking place, some of the spectrum was actually refarmed. And some of the tier 3 operators were transferred to the 5 gigahertz range, bringing a lot of noise, which rendered the networks unusable. And now we have transitioned to fiber optic cable because as far as the community is concerned, they don't care whether you are using wireless or fiber. What they want is a good service. Again, as community networks, now we have to understand deeper how internet works. We are dealing with routing. In some of the communities, they want content. They want only content, CDNs. In some of the communities, they want international content, or rather IPT. So we have to divide in our networks between IPT and CDN. So you can see that the fact that it's community networks does not mean that we are exempt from some of the requirements or from providing a good service. I will move quickly to some of the opportunities that have presented themselves. Number one is increasing support from our governments and regulatory agencies. Yesterday, we spent time here with the Communications Authority, and you can see that there is goodwill. Two brothers from the private sector. Community networks are not coming to take away the market. They are complementary. Actually, they are last mile solutions. This is a difficult conversations we've had in Kenya, and I think we have found some agreement. But I think the bigger challenge is always the pushback from the traditional operators. While you push back, you deny 70% of our populace an opportunity to come online. There is also the need for increased awareness on the digital value chain. When our people come online, what value do they get? I watched the inauguration in the US the other day, and I couldn't help to see the CEOs of the tech giants, most of whom their market is in Africa, present in that particular meeting. And I think this is the opportunity that we are missing as the African continent. So we need to do digital literacy so that there is meaningful use from our communities on this infrastructure and the services that are provided in this infrastructure. There's a lot of investment from ICANN, from the Internet Society, in internet infrastructure to localize internet locally. Again, there's a lot of enactment of futuristic policies, digital public infrastructure, data protection, AI, to name but a few. And of course, there are a lot of efforts to localize internet traffic and also increase data centers. And we've just had a presentation from Wingu, Africa. I think data centers really hold a great key in ensuring that the 70% who are unconnected are actually connected. Why am I saying so? People will come online if they find content that is in their language, content that is that is meaningful to them. At the moment, a lot of the content that is being consumed does not resonate with our local communities. As I conclude, I want to point out to some of the challenges of community networks. Cost of equipment remains a major challenge, and I think private sector needs to think of how some of this equipment that we are importing can be manufactured locally to lower the costs. Operating costs are also a major challenge. Power remains a key issue. For us, most of the community networks operate using solar infrastructure because in most of the communities, electricity disappears for 2 weeks, if you are lucky, or 3 weeks. So you can imagine, this is Africa, and Africa is our business. We have to talk about those things. Again, cost of bandwidth is very high, especially when you move away from the cities. You find that you pay 10 times more compared to the people that are in the city. In fact, in the cities, you can even get bandwidth for free. Inappropriate network designs. Yeah. Remember, people are interested in content. The network designs are the ones which will determine the cost of connectivity. You find that most of our connectivity is expensive because we have to go out of our countries and then come back, which really increases the cost. Again, we have weak communities of practice. We have local network operator groups. I'm a very active member of the Kenya Network Operator Group. I volunteer. It's normally supported by ISOC. I believe there's a network operator group here. I encourage you, make it work. We have, for instance, national DNS fora when it comes to DNS issues. Have these meetings, even if you meet under a tree. It's not a must that we meet in places like this, but the more we meet, the more we'll be able to move forward. As I conclude in my 15 seconds, again, there's need for us to have conversations at our regional internet registry level for resources to be allocated to community networks and more focus on value-based training so that we can have applications that bring money to our communities, and that will encourage many more people to come online. So with that, I would like to bring my presentation to a close. I see my time is up. Thank you very much.
Well, you wanted to try some Amharic, right? Are you a good student? Okay. Now you say, Endamin. What? Huh? Endamin Adarachu. He's a good student. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go and invite our next speaker. Forgive me, I have to find it on my agenda because I wasn't prepared for this and it's embarrassing, honestly. So you are Barrack, right? Huh? Yeah, I have it. I got it, doctor. Don't worry. So Dr. Carlos Rey-Moreno, co-founder of Zenzeleni Networks, will be now presenting on community networks, a complementary solution to connect the unconnected. Please welcome Dr. Carlos to the stage. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? And see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it. Please proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, ISOC, and thank you to all organizers to actually having invited me to share some of the lessons that APC, the Association for Progressive Communications, has learned over the years on this topic. It's always difficult to go after Barrack, as he's a very knowledgeable speaker on the topic with a lot of knowledge from the ground and a great partner in Kenya. Very briefly on APC, that is the organization I represent, whereby we've been working on this topic for the last 7 years very intensely, not only at the local level, working with partners such as the CN Association in Kenya, but also through policy in capacity building with different actors at all levels in the region, as well as participating in the ITU. Just to move to the just to say that I've been listening to all the conversations, right? Especially the one that Barrack mentioned, and how yes, there is a massive investment and development and deployment of internet infrastructure, but yet we need to acknowledge, as Barrack was saying, not only that people is not using it, but that there is a massive social impact on them, right? That internet usage is growing. People who are using the internet have more and more benefits into a society that is increasingly digital. And those that are not using the internet for whatever reason it is, are being left behind. We saw this especially through COVID, but afterwards in relation to access to education, access to health, access to government services, and how all those efforts that have been discussed in this session need to go to everyone, need to go universal, because many people are not benefiting from them. And it is great to see IXPs, it is amazing to see data centers, how fiber infrastructure is growing, but yet, as Barrack is saying, many millions of people are not online and won't be online for the foreseeable future if we look at the trends of the industry, which is focusing on moving from 4G to 5G, on providing connectivity to users, better connectivity to users that are already connected. Insofar they are able to pay for the services and to maintain the return on investment of the industry players that are currently providing that access. In that regard, and in relation to talking a bit about policy, right? This is the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact that was endorsed and adopted by the United Nations in September last year, where they acknowledge really that the closing the digital divide is the first goal, right? The first objective of the Global Digital Compact, because there is 2.6 billion people that are not connected to the internet, right? And in their commitments to close the digital divide, by 2030, they commit to invest in resilient digital infrastructure, including local network initiatives, including the type of community networks that Barrack was alluding to, right? This is from September last year. This was adopted by all countries, acknowledging that this needs to happen one way or another and committing to invest on this. How this will play out, we are yet to see. Because, yeah, what is the role of community networks in the sector, right? Traditional operators are showing signs of having reached their limits. They have a bottom line in the return on investment, on the investment they are seeking. And there are populations that are simply not able to meet them, right? So they are reinvesting and they are, in improving their infrastructure in places where that return on investment can be done. Different attempts of solving that, from incentivizing through USF, the Universal Service Funds, or otherwise, is not working, because at the end of the day, either you subsidize them forever, or once those subsidies stop because of their costs of operating and because of the cost of their services, most of those solutions end up being stopped. Most of those base stations stop operating, right? So in that regard, community networks or community center connectivity initiatives can move towards closing that gap and bring connectivity to those that are otherwise excluded by the market. Because again, the telecommunications sector has been looked only through the eyes, or mostly through the eyes, of a market approach, yet we should see it as well as a social justice issue and a social issue, an economic issue where many people are being left behind from and excluded from the digital transformation of society altogether. But also because they can bring and keep some of those profits local and generate economies in places where there were none, right? In the case of South Africa, that is the one that I know the most, there was a time where, in my PhD, where 22% of the disposable income of people who live below $2 a day were living in the community, to highly profitable telecommunications companies. And the thing is that 22% mainly came from social grants from the government. So actually, if those social grants from the government were to be used for something else and were to be used to remain local, a local economy could be created instead of all those profits going back to the capital and leaving those rural areas underdeveloped as they were prior to the deployment of telecommunications. So I want to really allude to what Barrack was saying, using an analogy from my friend Steve Song, who I believe is part of the conference as well, around the complementarity of these approaches, right? And if you think, and maybe you've seen this analogy or you've heard us talking about this before, but if you take the entire number of humans in society and think of them as a jar, and how that jar could be filled, or how those users could be provided with connectivity, the main approach in many countries is to provide them with services from mobile network operators and traditional operators. And those are massive operators, right? With a national footprint, with, their shops everywhere, their headquarters, their marketing campaigns, and the like. And if you put those rocks into the jar, and the jar appear to be full, right? Yet if you fill it with water, you would realize that half of the jar is still empty, right? So that other operators are actually necessary. Smaller operators, ISPs, mainly WISPs, although now with the reduced cost of deploying fiber, as Barrack was alluding to, they are deploying fiber as well in areas that are not profitable by the traditional operators, and they can fill those gaps, right? And they are filling those gaps in many countries. And yet again, if you fill that jar with water, there is a significant amount of space still left, a significant amount of people that those operators are not able to cover, right? And here is where community center connectivity models appear to fill those other gaps and complement those other efforts that the that the other companies are making to really fill the jar and fill all the gaps that are left by market approaches. And so what is a community network? And I think, or a community connectivity provider, and Barrack mentioned this, in relation to community, in relation to participation, and in relation to local ownership and governance, right? But also in relation to infrastructure, right? There is capital expenditure, there is physical infrastructure that needs to be provided, there is backhaul that needs to be connected to in order to reach the rest of the internet, right? So at the end of the day, a community connectivity provider refers to a wide variety of efforts by local communities to build and manage all or parts of the infrastructure required to enjoy and co-create the internet. They differ in purpose, they differ in governance structures, they differ on the type of infrastructure and services that they provide. I mean, Barrack alluded to moving from LTE to wireless to fiber. They are different sizes, from the 30,000 that Barrack has connected to smaller operations in many other countries in the world. In Brazil, there are small community networks that cover up to 50 families in communities that are isolated in the middle of the jungle. So they really vary in many ways. And there are, they also have different models, right? We have from those families in Brazil pooling resources and covering their networks, I mean their community with the smallest subset of infrastructure required, to municipal networks where really the local governments, and this is happening especially in Asia, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, where the local government is actually investing their own resources into covering and providing service infrastructure and services to their community members, to social enterprises. And I would think that a HeriNet is a social enterprise in many ways, in which they don't only work on remaining not profitable, I mean, covering their costs, again, being sustainable economically, but they also have a social impact, and many of these community center connectivity providers do have an environmental impact and bottom line, whereby they are trying to do things that contribute to a different society that is not, again, only driven by the market, but still playing by the rules of the market. Insofar they need to be sustainable, and insofar sometimes for that sustainability they need to scale. How do they cover or reach that sustainability? Again, there are different models in relation to the initial investment, in relation to the sustainability model, and in relation to the pricing model. Sometimes people say, but how come prices are going to be lower than the price of the market and the price of the mobile operators and other incumbents? Well, why? Because they are able to play by other rules. They are able to cut down their costs, right? By engaging with local people and employing local people, by reducing their overheads, by reducing their return on investment requirements, by reducing a lot of this and playing by action-based subsidies, by barter transactions, by many other elements by which they are indeed able to reduce the costs and do it cheaply than other telecommunications operators are able to do. And this is considered by the Broadband Commission, whereby in this report from 2021, but in many other reports that I would be more than happy to share with you, they do allude to supporting financially community networks. I think the person from Wingu was talking about creating enabling environments, and those enabling environments are not necessarily only regulatory, as we see in Kenya, but they need to be financial as well. As Barrack was mentioning, CapEx is required, and access to CapEx, and investment for CapEx is really created in terms of those, or only accessible to, if you go to ask for a loan, or if you ask to engage is only considered in terms of big operators, right? Loans that are of a certain size, interest rates that are for those that are, operating with big margins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to work towards creating innovative financial mechanisms that are for those small operators and social operators that are covering the gaps that the market is unable to cover, right? ISOC is doing a great job with their grants. There are different people that are doing great job with providing financial resources and otherwise to these actors. But I think if we are to meet those commitments from the Global Digital Compact, we do need to consider the needs and the realities of those social and local operators and their lack of access to finance, which is very minimal at the moment. Again, the ITU also considers community broadband networks as part of their innovative funding mechanisms, insofar they consider they are cheaper and they are able to do the same with way less resources, right? So again, investment mechanisms could be doing the same, but doing it cheaply. And yeah, with that, I want to conclude. And thank you so much again for the invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Carlos from South Africa, and apologize for the interruption earlier. And thank you for covering up the emergency. Yeah, so now we have finished presentations from our presenters, from our panelists. I would like to once again thank all presenters for setting the stage for the remaining discussion. Yes. So now I will call on the panelists to join me on stage, and we will have an open presentation, an open discussion on the panel. So please welcome my panelists to the stage. Dr. Carlos will be also joining us online. So please give them a round of applause while they come here to the stage. Okay, so I will start the discussion with Tigest with you. So my first the question I'm going to raise for you is you are a leader of a cloud services provider in Ethiopia locally. So I will start I want to focus on that and on the theme of the presentation, connectivity. So from your experience as a leader of cloud services provider company, please reflect on the role of local private companies like the one you're leading in fostering connectivity in digitalization process. Please also reflect on what the main challenges that are faced by a company like yours, and what can be stakeholders that are listening here can do to expand the reach of such companies. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Good morning. እንደምን አደራችሁ. My name is Tigest Damtie. I'm the founder of and CEO of Cloud 251. Before directly answering the question, I would like to give a little bit of story regarding this. For Ethiopia, the data that we are collecting every day is a natural resource, I would say. When I say this, it's because it's a story of 120 million people, and it's a digital footprint of us every single day. So having that data, the Personal Data Protection Proclamation number 1321 elaborates specifically on Article 22, elaborates about data sovereignty. In that section, it elaborates about those data should reside in Ethiopian soil. So imagine the amount of data that we are talking about. So I believe we can leverage that data and to our own advantage. And for example, for the future artificial intelligence solutions and the like. So for me, this is a once lifetime of opportunity to support the private sector to become a champion in collecting this data, utilizing it, analyzing and utilizing it for the national interest. Therefore, this is exactly where cloud industry was born. So under cloud industry, there are layers of industries like a cloud service provider like Cloud 251 and Zergaw, and data centers like Raxio, Wingu, and the Ethiopian Communication Authority, the regulatory body. And the one thing that always underestimated in Ethiopia, I would say it is overlooked, cybersecurity. All this data we're talking about should be safeguarded by cybersecurity. So that being said, I can come to your answer, to your question. As a cloud service provider leader, what's my role in this? That's a so beautiful question, by the way, because think about it. Let's just take one sector. Just one example. For instance, starting from January this month, every bank opening and every documentation authentication authority, they are requiring national ID. National ID is registered so far 12 million ID. And imagine the number of data that would create. And as of today, 6,350 terabytes of data are trafficking every single day in Ethiopia. And this is growing 25% every year, if not more. So this big data is just related so far, the transaction that we have so far. And let me add you one more example. For example, in financial sector, just last year, half of the GDP of Ethiopia, which is $81 billion, was transacted over digitally. And one of the biggest bank in Ethiopia, Ethiopian Commercial Bank, has announced to lay off a significant amount of employees because 80% of its transaction is happening digitally. So all this data, when you see all this data, what do you see? It needs reliable, secured, scalable, cost-effective cloud. That's exactly where I fit in, I guess. So imagine, for example, I just mentioned two examples so far. Imagine yourself after 5 years. Imagine Ethiopia after 3 or 5 years. All health sector, all other sector, for example, transportation sector. By the way, did you know almost close to 200,000 ride-hailing order is happening only in Addis Ababa every day? What does it tell you? That's exactly where I'm coming from. That's exactly what I wanted to say. This is our natural resource. And this is what I would like to emphasize. And this type of data are very precious than the gold that we have in our soil or the coffee that we are exporting every day.
Thank you. Thank you.
year.
Tigest. Sorry for interrupt you. I have been told by the organizers that we're running late with time. So if you just take 1 or 2 minutes to reflect on what can be done to expand the reach of the companies like yours in the interconnectivity and an overall digitalization process.
Okay, regarding the question that you asked me about the challenge, for example, we have a huge challenge on directives. Okay, the directives, for example, the policy are there. For example, 6 months ago, the artificial intelligence policy is enacted, and the personal data protection was there and everything, but the nitty-gritty detail, the roadmap is not there. So that's the first problem that we're facing. The second problem is conflicting of regulations. I can give you example on this one. For example, the Ethiopian Communication Authority, the regulatory body, allow financial sector to utilize private clouds as long as they meet the standard and whatever the requirement is. But unfortunately, when we approach the financial sector, the banks, the SACCO, and the microfinances, they retreat to use that because of afraid of the national bank rules. So as a government and as a sector veteran, all of us, we have to empower Ethiopian Communication Authority to reinforce this thing and to come up with the same line. So, and the other one is attitude. Attitude, when I say attitude regarding the government, for example, all the trend now is all public sectors are strictly using public cloud providers. That's not right. We cannot grow like this. We cannot meet the vision that we created on Digital 2025 and also. So I believe the Ethiopian Communication Authority should reinforce this, and the public, imagine 2.2 million employees are under the government, and there are 178 organizations. We're not asking the national interest data to be sit on the private cloud, but the rest, for example, from 170, half of it is sitting on the private sector. There is where you empower the private sector. So we believe that the government should work hand in hand with the private sector. It's a win-win situation. So we believe the private sector should be, the economy should be led by the private sector, not the public sector. So the trend should be changed. That's my statement I would like to make. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tigest. So I will be quicker. Of course, there's a lot to discuss on each of these points. So in the interest of time, I will jump to you, Mr. Ghislain. So for you, my question is on IXPs. Since you are an expert in IXPs and you have worked on this on different occasions in different countries, can you reflect on, because we have been introduced to IXPs for the non-so-expert audience, can you elaborate what an IXP could bring to a country like Ethiopia in terms of cost of connectivity, quality of connectivity, and also perhaps security and regulatory confirmation? So please, I will give you, so I have asked a lot of questions, but I will only be giving you some 3 minutes.
All right, I will try my best to answer simply as possible. So an exchange point, internet exchange point is an infrastructure. First of all, it's a network infrastructure. For the layman, I will say it's simply a switch. And in that switch, many operators connect. Ethio Telecom connect with Safaricom, connect with ISP-A, ISP-B, ISP-C, and they exchange traffic. So when you don't have that infrastructure, what it means is that each and every one of those networks connect not within the country. They will connect somewhere else outside of the country. Fortunately, if there is an exchange in the region, probably that traffic will go out of the country to the neighboring country and being exchanged and come back in the country. It is delayed. Traffic has to go out. If that link that goes out of the country is broken by accident or any reasons, then that interconnection between those two local networks does not exist. So the implications are very huge because the traffic has to go outside. There are security implications, there are efficiency implications, there are implications in terms of not being able to create some specific content, real-time, sensitive application will not be able probably to work effectively, and so on and so forth. So I would say you will be able also to save money if you have an exchange point within your country, because those two networks that connect outside of the country both have to pay US dollars out. So it's capital export, I would say, foreign currency export, I would say. Those are economic implications that are happening. And I will share this with you. For example, an example, yesterday, I think I was in a panel in the fintech, and I was trying to do some trace routes from one of the local networks. I will not mention them, but from one network to another network, the traffic was moving outside of here to Somalia cable, to, I would say, to Cogent, Marseille, back to Kenya, coming back here, just for a local service, just to access a local service that is available. And that will be the same path going back. So there are security implications, as I mentioned, and then foreign currency exports implications and so forth. So an exchange point within Ethiopia will create also the foundation for a digital economy, education, health, e-commerce, financial transactions, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Thank you. We could talk all day about this, so I'm sorry to have rushed you. So the next question is for you, Freddy. For you also, what I would like to, come back to IXPs. I want you to share your experience in Tanzania, if I may ask, for how the IXPs, how the usage of IXPs is promoted, and especially with related to government services. So can you reflect on that?
Thank you very much. I have to be honest. Ethiopia, in comparison to other markets in terms of internet exchange, Ethiopia is young and new. So Tanzania has been having an internet exchange, and last year we celebrated 20 years of having an internet exchange. So in a snapshot, the internet exchange has permanent member. When I say permanent members, are those who have ASN number and an IP address block. So this, you're talking about 38 permanent members, and up to the latest records, there are more than 39, 40 peers. So you can see this is a very healthy internet exchange. But this is built based on the regulatory framework, which has been in Tanzania for some times. We have licensed mobile network operator, 5 licensed mobile network operator, and more than 30 registered internet service providers. So you can see the ecosystem in terms of everybody need to connect to the internet exchange. But the internet exchange has been a host of the content networks. So the CDNs like Google, Meta, Netflix, Akamai, they are all already in the internet exchange. So that has forced all the ISPs and MNOs to have access to the IX so that their end user can have access to that content. But Tanzania is blessed to have access to the sea. So we have 3 subsea cables. So even these 3 subsea cables have also seen the value to go to the internet exchange because they will be able to provide access. They will be able to get access to the local market where the users are staying. But one important thing is to do with the government and the regulations, because the government of Tanzania embrace the internet exchange. The central bank is already connected to the internet exchange. The Tanzania Revenue Authority is then connected to the internet exchange. The Port Authority, different university, and the e-government. Why? Because most of the government services has been digitalized. So to speed up the user experience and to avoid transaction failure, because these payments like parking services, land services, government levies are paid through online. So by the government getting there, it has forced all these services to be exchanged through the internet exchange. So the experience has been very good and everybody embraced the internet exchange. Even the regulator has made internet exchange part of their regulatory framework. So they are called in as stakeholders to discuss in terms of new regulations, changes of policies. I've been blessed to be part of the executive committee for 8 years, and you can be able to see how the regulator and the government and the private sector work together to drive the value of the internet exchange.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm coming to you, Barrack. So there were 2 key points that were raised today, the IXP and community connectivity. So I mean, you have an extensive experience working on connectivity, rural connectivity, community networks. So my question for you will be focused on that again on your presentation. So, so building on your experience in Kenya, so can you reflect on the impact of these community networks can bring to a country, a neighboring country like Ethiopia, and what things should be, what could we learn from you, what can we enhance here? So can you discuss on that? Again, I will not give you so much time because we are running time, so please be brief on that.
Thank you very much. It goes without saying that connectivity has had a major impact. I think for those who followed the developments in Kenya, the Gen Z protests, they were largely they were using their devices to express their displeasure, and it caught the attention of government. It might be looked at positively or negatively, but that's why I mentioned that those are the fruits of the investment that has been made in training these young people. A lot of the parents kept telling their young people that they want them to be leaders. And now when they saw them on the streets with their phones, they were wondering what's going on. But over and above this, the young people are also doing a lot of business online. Most of them connectivity. So I would say that this is the effort of capacity building and the outcome of the work that our universities have actually been doing and the investment that has been made. I think the other point that I would like to make is there's also been a lot of capacity development, and I want to speak to the issue of research and development. I hope that we can understand more the spectrum realm. I'm glad that we have ITU in the house. That's one area that we haven't really cracked well. I'm saying that because I've engaged with researchers from the International Center of Theoretical Physics way back in 2004, and we were able to do antennas using tins, and they were working very well. And so when we are talking about lowering the cost of entry, those are the things that we should be pursuing here in Africa. Again, availability of devices. I see some devices being manufactured in Kenya. They have a lot of spelling mistakes. Probably you receive 1 or 2 calls and they go off, but I'm really proud of such initiatives. They cost about 1,000 shillings or $1, meaning that anyone can afford. For me, we need to encourage such initiatives. It's not a must I have an S20 or something. Provided it works and I can communicate with someone in my village, those are things that we should encourage. I think, again, availability of infrastructure is key. Many thanks to the Internet Society, ICANN and other partners that have been supporting. I think ICANN now has pushed for ICANN managed root server instances in Africa. The whole idea is to help localize our content or our communication. Lastly is the supportive legal and regulatory environment. The fact that we are here hosted by the ministry, we are here supported by the regulator, points to a good direction where we are going. And I think we need to encourage more of this. I have had to learn the language of regulators, to speak to regulators and encourage us when they open the door, let's take the opportunity and move there. So I would say those are some of the things that we've done in Kenya to be able to be where we are. We are not there yet. There's much to be done, but I think it presents a great opportunity for the young people, for the old people, and for us in general, because we are one region. Thank you.
Thank you. So my last question to the panelist, Dr. Carlos in South Africa. I hope you can hear me. Is he online?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question for you is again on community networks. So it is clear the importance and the role of community networks for interconnectivity. What I would like to ask you is what role are there benefits in bringing together the efforts in the different community networks across Africa and more specifically across IGAD, since this conference is in the context of IGAD. So what are the benefits of pulling together the resources, both human and capital, in coordinating the efforts towards building community-based connectivities?
No, thank you. And I would say, I mean, ISOC and APC have been collaborating or collaborated for 5 editions of the Community Networks Africa Summit, which brought together a lot of those practitioners that contributed a lot to sharing experiences and lessons and building a community of practice, right, around these topics, which is very much necessary. So bringing efforts together and sharing, as also Barrack was alluding to in his presentation, is critical for developing a community of practice that somehow is centralized in the big cities and decentralize it to the rural areas and where the communities that do not have access actually live. Because that's the other point I wanted to make. I think there are a lot of needs in the region in relation to regulation, in relation to finance. We've heard, massive efforts and much more that need to be done on fiber optics, on data centers, on IXPs, and all that is necessary. But if we only invest on that, if we only focus on that, 50% of the population or even more is going to be left behind. There is going to be a massive exclusion of population if we don't work at working with the communities and with the social entrepreneurs that want to close the digital divide wherever those big companies don't want to go, right? So it is important to create regulation. It is important to create an enabling environment for everything that all the other panelists have said, but it's also important and critical to focus on the last mile, to focus on the excluded, because else the market is only going to focus where return on investment can be found. And there are a lot of people working in places where return on investment cannot be found. So bringing people together, yes, 100%, we've been doing that. We will continue doing that. Building capacities, building communities of practice is critical. Creating an enabling regulatory environment, as in the case of Kenya, is critical, because without a regulatory environment, there is no way that you are going to create a financial environment, an investment, an innovative investment environment, because there is no security for it. So that's the next point, creating innovative financial ecosystems whereby small operators can access to funding and to finance in a similar way that big operators do. So those are my points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Carlos. So now it's time to give the chance to the audience to ask very few questions. I have been informed that we only have very few minutes left. I'm taking too much time from the next sessions, so I will only be accepting some 3 or 4 sessions. So 4 questions. So okay, I have to choose one of you. Okay, so one of you here, okay, there, and okay, so I have 3 questions. So you may start here. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Johannes Ghislain. I'm a monitoring, evaluation, and learning expert at Civil Society, Ethiopian Center for Development. And I had just 2 points that I wanted to raise. And I would first like to thank the presenters for the presentation that you have given us, and also for the actually interesting panel discussion that we just had. So the point that I just wanted to ask is specifically with the presentation regarding the carrier neutral data centers that was presented on earlier. There are some aspects, for example, of the use of AI in optimizing energy usage, especially in other data centers that could be mentioned. And so I was just I wanted to know what aspect, if that practice could actually be adopted in the context of Wingu, and also with regards to community network that was presented earlier on. I know maybe the relevant bodies might not be present to respond to this question, but I wanted to know what initiatives actually exist to expand community networks here in Ethiopia, and also what are the potentials to utilize the Universal Service Access Funds to expand them? Because what I have read, what little I have read, actually, this practice has been quite expansive in Kenya and other neighboring East African nations, but what exists with the Ethiopian context? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Ababa. And I would like to raise a question. Because we know many businesses in Ethiopia might not even know what data centers are for our country. How are you making sure business understand the benefits and at the same time making sure this service is reaching everyone? The second question, sir, considering the unique challenges and opportunities in Ethiopia villages, how can you build sustainable community networks that are affordable, reality, and empower local communities and maintain the country?
Thank you. So yes, sir. Question.
Hello, my name is I represent the Ethiopian Information System Audit Association, and I'm cybersecurity professional by profession, cybersecurity trainer, and cybersecurity advocate of Ethiopia for the past 5 years. So the questions that I direct forward to would be Mr. Freddy. He said that, referring to your notes, he said that skill level force to operate and manage data centers has become a challenge, really. And reiterating this, it's Damtie from Cloud 251. There is a serious skilled workforce gap, not only in Ethiopia, but across Africa, right? And a key success factor for development is definitely cybersecurity. Like, and coming back to my questions and comments, cybersecurity is really a topic that is completely misunderstood and underestimated. On the economic stats, values that is contributing and referring to numbers globally, the shortage of cyber skilled workforce gap currently stands at 4.7 million worldwide. So my question finally is that what serious concrete steps have you taken, especially, in elevating these gaps and have, a quality standard training that will enable us align with the global digital transformation pace, not only in mitigating the risks that we have been facing, but also, to do a kind of desert business. Thank you.
Thank you. I will allow one last question from this gentleman over here. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for getting this opportunity. My name is Teshale. I work in Wingu Africa and a volunteer organizer of the Ethiopian Internet Exchange Addis. So it's not a kind of question, but I want to give you some information about the Internet Exchange that has been established in Ethiopia. So I don't want to say the importance of Internet Exchange. It has already been said by many panelists and presenters today and yesterday. So what I wanted to say right now is Internet Exchange in Ethiopia is much more important even than other countries within at least two things. One is Ethiopia is a landlocked country, which is totally dependent in other sea countries. So Internet Exchange to communicate locally here is very important, and that's why Internet Exchange is much more important for Ethiopia. So that is one. And the other thing is Ethiopia is one of the largest populated country in Ethiopia, at least the second. So even the largest, youngest population in Ethiopia. So what does it show? If it is the youngest population, the usage of like social network, like content service providers, CDNs are highly encouraged to come to Ethiopia, like Meta, Google, and everything. So that is the way. So if that internet exchange here in Ethiopia, it will be like communicated locally, and someone is caching his exchange here in Ethiopia. So that is the way. So I'm just even advising these CDNs to come to Ethiopia instead of like, I'm not saying they shouldn't go there, but I'm just attracting the because it's a very, very attractive market. If I'm not mistaken, the social network about Meta, about 7 million Ethiopians are accessing Meta by right now. This shows that it's highly trafficked when they are accessing like Ethiopia, where it's two ways. The government will be well benefited because as the traffic is going outside, we're paying a lot of hard currency because of the gateway. And for the CDN providers, there will be more highly user-friendly usage of by the user. So that is the way. Anyway, we'll discuss by Friday and more, and just wanted to give you an information that everything has already been in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the added information to the stage. So let's answer, I'll give the chance to the panelists to respond to the questions. So first, I think many questions are related to the data center. So I'll give you the chance to respond.
Thank you. I have to acknowledge some of the question. I think because of the echo, I'm not sure if they were captured very well, but I can comment on the few things that I've actually heard correctly. My brother asked about how Wingu sort of a data center using the AI to manage energy. I think that's what the question is. So the modern data centers, the way they operate, are already in an era where we can say most of the systems that are running within the data center are very intelligent systems. So the data centers are automated in terms of decision making. For example, when you look in terms of power supply, we at tier 3, we consider 3 independent sources of power, but they go to a room which we call triple changeover. All the information about the power source is intelligently managed by a system which identify which power is clean, which power has phase reversal, which power is not stable. So these intelligent systems are able to decide, drop this power, take the second one. So this is one of the area where we can say we have already using the systems that are so intelligent, and the sensors that are used are very intelligent. Again, the data center we have is different from the IT room that are being used. The IT room, you just cool the entire room. But in the modern data center, you only cool the server. So there are smart sensors that identify that the cooling in this room is now sufficient. So those sensors smartly push down the amount of cooling that is needed. But another area which is very important, of course, is to do with the cameras that we have in our data centers. The data centers, cameras, and also lighting systems are controlled by smart sensors. So if there is no motion within the data center, the lights will go off. But if there is any motion, definitely they will switch on. But also the cameras are smart to track your movement. So the camera are not just pointing to the north, but they are pointing where the movement is. So the camera are smart, adjusting themselves the way they are. But going forward, when we go now to the proper AI that will be hosted in different platforms and different servers, I think that's another level where we'll need more time to discuss. But currently, the data center we have are smart and able to control the energy usage, energy efficiency within the facility. Even the additional advantage which we have here in Ethiopia, at some point we have a technology where we can discover that the cooling within the data center is, for example, the temperature within the data center might somehow be above or below the temperature outside because of geographical position of Ethiopia. So the outside cooling could be better than the inside cooling. So the systems are smart to detect, no, we don't need to switch on any air condition. We just need to use the airflow from outside. And this is advantage in Ethiopia. And for the people who are worried about bringing their servers or facilities in the proper data centers like Wingu data centers, this is an opportunity for your equipment, your system to run efficiently because these are proper design data centers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Tigest, let me come to you. There are some questions related to awareness of data center and I would say cloud services in general. So could you take 1 minute to explore what is being done to increase awareness by different stakeholders and by your company?
Thank you so much. Basically, regarding knowledge and awareness, I don't think so much has been done. And we are all responsible for that. And thank you for this platform that is brought by Internet Society as well. I would be thankful for this. But imagine how many of us are here IT related, I mean, like affiliated to this business. How many of us are IT directors? How many of us are responsible for this? And how many of us really knows the regulations, the policies, and everything is there? So the knowledge and the knowledge gap and awareness is, I acknowledge it 100%, and I recommend if Ethiopian Communication Authority launched the first summit to understand this sector in the presence of His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister, because he's leading the Digital Council. I recommend every stakeholder should sit and have a proper conversation in this regard. That's my recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My last point, I'm sorry, we have run out of time, so I'll give you to respond to some of the questions on community. So just 2 minutes, okay?
All right. So quickly, there was a question that was asked. I think yesterday the Deputy Director General alluded to the scenario in Ethiopia. Probably I'll not be able to repeat it. There is initiative or interest from the regulator, but there is need for support from the community. If I sum up what he said, I think that was the issue. On the issue of USAC, I'll share the experience in Kenya. We've not been able to tap into USAC because the way USAC is set up, normally those who contribute, the tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1 operators are the ones who are entitled to using it. So we've been trying to find a compromise on how those who are outside that ambit can be supported, who are community operators, but it's not been easy. The Communications Authority of Kenya has been developing a framework through which it will be granting, for instance, community operators. And that is something that has been going on for the last 2 years. So maybe that's something that I would share that as a lesson that can be borrowed. Lastly, on the question on maybe what Ethiopia can learn or the lesson we can share from Kenya, there can be no community network without community engagement. Community engagement is very key because community networks are built on value. They are based on value. So don't assume you understand what the community needs. Engage the community to appreciate what they need and so that they can tell you what they want and build infrastructure around that. A lot of times, those who build the infrastructure will be from the community. Those who offer the sites for your points of presence will be from the community. The second issue is capacity building. This is a very complex subject. Community networks is telecommunications. So we need to build the capacity of operators, of those who will be building the network infrastructure, and the Internet Society, as I mentioned, has done a lot in this area. Lastly, the other thing is capacity development. We need people that have the heart for community networks. It's really hard. So mentorship is key, and forums such as this create a platform or an opportunity for mentorship. There are also other fora that you can attend, like ICANN meetings where you can get fellowships. These fellowships are very important in creating linkages, and I want to extend an invitation to the chapter. Come to Kenya. We can embed you in any of the community networks so that we can learn firsthand what's happening. And where possible, we can also see where we can hold each other's hands to build community networks here. There's also development of sandboxes and proofs of concepts. Let's just try. It's not a must that it will be successful, but we learn from our mistakes even as we stumble forward. So let me leave at that. We'll carry on with the discussion in the corridors.
Okay.
Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry for rushing you. I'm sorry, we have we really have extended our invitation here. So thank you, everyone. I hope the conversations we had and the presentations we had were very informative and engaging. Apologies for the time. Thank you.
I'm very sorry. We're really rushing you, I understand, but we're really delayed. A round of applause for the panelists and the moderator, please. Can I ask you to join together for a group photo? Please stand together for a group picture. I would leave my notebook. And then either Dr. Dawit or Dr. Asrat.